Hello, it's so nice to be back. I had a few weeks away. I actually returned to the UK and saw my family. And yeah, it's just been really good to have a bit of a break. But now I'm back and really excited today to talk to you about how to attract and maintain a loving relationship using your energy. Now, it feels a bit weird saying that because, I mean, the reality is you're using your energy all the time. But I feel in this day and age, people like to categorize things in a tool dynamic. And so rest assured, you're using your energy all the time. But I think what we really want to talk about today is understanding specific ways to show up in certain situations around dating in particular, and also in long-term relationships that can really empower you and empower your relationship or the relationship you're wishing to create with somebody. So I really want to kind of dive straight in here for a change and look at dating. And I mean, I must admit, one of the triggers for me doing this podcast is because I think there's a large percentage of women that I deal with in my integration sessions who basically come to me because they're single, they're very successful in their work, but they're having trouble in their relationships and attracting the right partner. And I mean, this can be for a variety of reasons, obviously, but the pattern that I see is, generally speaking, there are beliefs around the self, particularly around worthiness and deserving of love and happiness, that are limited largely because of experiences that occurred in childhood, particularly with relationships with the parents. And I'm sure this isn't shocking to any of you. It's just about highlighting the fact that we really are often allowing our past to recreate our future. And though it's very tempting to fall into beliefs and ideas around blaming our childhood and our parents and using it as some sort of justification for where we're at, it doesn't actually help us in changing our situation. So that's what integration work is all about. It's actually about clearing the energy, the way that we feel about our parents, about whatever experiences have shaped those limiting beliefs, and helping us really start to make conscious decisions around how we want to move forward in a new way. Because otherwise, all we're doing is reliving the same emotional patterning. But the only person who's a victim now is you. It doesn't really matter who's to blame. It's actually how you want to move forward from this point. And when we continually live in a state of regretting the experiences of the past, or a state of victimhood around the experiences that we were put through in the past, we actually continue to disempower ourselves. It's no longer our parents that are doing it to us. We are now disempowering ourselves by allowing those stories to keep us trapped in self-limiting beliefs about who we are. So what we really want to start doing is taking ownership. Okay, I know this is an ongoing theme in most of my podcasts, but that is where all our power lies. It's in us taking ownership of how we want to show up, of the person that we wish to become. So I want to dive straight into dating. And my primary piece of advice around this is, before you go into that realm, be very, very clear about the caliber of person you want in your life, you want to attract. Okay, note I said caliber, not the way they look, the money they earn, or any of the superficial things. It is the values that person holds. That is what you want to be really clear on, because you, no doubt, are looking for someone who can really hold themselves with a level of integrity, who's going to really want to show up for you in a long-term way, in a really honest, authentic way. And well, here I am putting words in your mouth. I'm going to let you write your list for the person that you want to call into your life. And it's super important to do this before entering the dating world, because otherwise you're kind of going in blind and you're like, well, they look okay. Oh, let's just go for it and see how we go. But if you've already got a really clear understanding of who it is that you want, you will find that even when you're looking at people's photographs, you'll start to become really attuned to recognizing, because you'll be reading their energy, to recognizing whether or not they're in alignment with what you're looking for. But the only way you can do that is if you're really clear on what you're looking for. So if you're already dating, that's fine. Maybe use this as a little, a step back period where you can reassess, where you've been up till now, what kind of men or women you've been attracting, and, take stock of your journey and decide, maybe I do want to create a list. Maybe I do want to get really clear on the kind of person that I want, the values that I'd like them to have, and write that list, and then go back in. And as I was saying, just have a look and see, but you'll already start to discern. And what you're doing here energetically is you're starting to basically emit a vibration, which is holding a certain frequency. Okay, so in more layman's terms, you are creating a feeling within yourself around the person that you're calling in. And what that does is it actually sends out a message to the universe, if you like. For those of you who are more attuned to vibrational language, what you're doing is you're creating a vibration and you're emitting that vibration. And the energy that we send out is always the energy that we get back. Okay, which is why we want to be so clear on who it is we want. Because once we start aligning ourselves with the expectation of that person, we will know very quickly when we have not met that person. So when you've got your list, once you've started using that as your North Star, essentially, in terms of, the people that you want to attract and call in, it will start to help you make more discerning decisions around dates that you agree to go on. Dates are taking up your time. They are valuable. So don't agree to dates that aren't really lined up with you and what you want. And what you might have already noticed in what I'm saying is we want to start gradually creating this sense of empowerment in self. Because two of the common things that come up for people is this kind of idea around pleasing the person they're going on a date with. And the reality is that you're interviewing them for your life partner, potentially, right? That's what most people want. They really want a life partner. They go through all these other experiences, but the reality is you want to be with somebody who loves you and you love back and have a really happy, long-lasting relationship with. So when you're going into that date, see it as, is this person going to fit my bill? Not, how can I make this person like me? Once we slip into that energy, that's really disempowered energy. That is energy which is giving all of your power to that person. When you're sitting there from a perspective of, I've got my list, I know what I'm after. Are you that person? Are you going to win the golden ticket? That's a really different energy. That's coming from a place of power, discernment, and authenticity. Now, if you're worried about putting people off by being that powerful, let me assure you, the only people you're going to put off are the people you do not want. The person that responds to you and meets you where you're at is a person that is actually going to most likely fit your list. So don't see dating as a numbers game. The more dates you have, it's quality we want, not quantity. And so even in the preamble conversations that you're having with people before dating, you might like to, start asking questions around your list to start ascertaining whether or not they're in alignment with the kind of person you want to be with, because that will help you really cut down the people that you're spending time with. I know a lot of people are starting to have pre-physical date phone calls. So you're having a chat with someone before you even meet them for a coffee or a drink or whatever it might be. And this is brilliant to me because it really shows a level of seriousness about you taking your happiness and your heart really, really seriously, which is exactly what you should be doing. Because let's face it, how many long-term relationships are you going to have in this life? Or rather, how many do you want? And when you start talking to yourself and showing up for yourself in this way, what you're doing is you're prioritizing your own needs. You're valuing yourself, you're valuing your time, you're valuing your heart, you're really empowering yourself. So this might be confronting for some of you, in which case I would invite you to consider why. Why does this seem bullshit? Why does this seem aggressive? Why does this seem unnecessary even? Because the answers to a lot of those questions might reflect parts of you that don't feel worthy, okay? And it's good to have awareness of what, what I call your dark side, okay? Because I know I've spoken to this before, but for those of you that aren't familiar, each of us has a light side and a dark side. The parts of us we approve of and are happy for the world to see, the parts of us we don't approve of and that we hide from the world. The dark aspects of who we are, the parts that we hide, they are our tickets to freedom. And that's because when we find the courage to at least become aware of our dark side, it's like we are acknowledging and upskilling ourselves in our weakest areas. And all that does is actually make those weaker areas stronger because we're shining our light on them. We're shining our awareness on them. We become conscious of wanting to support those areas and help those areas. And so when we're in the dating world, the better the handle we have on our vulnerability, the easier it is for us to navigate those parts of who we are. And in accepting that we have weaknesses in certain areas, we actually become stronger overall. So firstly, we want you to be really, really clear that you are not about pleasing the person that you're with. The second thing that really comes up for people is this idea that they kind of have to take what they get because of this ongoing concern that there's not enough good people out there, right? That thought in and of itself is actually creating that reality. This is probably one of the most common things I hear, especially from women in their 30s. They have this belief that all the good ones are taken. And that right there is the reason they feel that way. Because they are entertaining that as a reality, the way that they perceive the dating world is moving through that filter. And when we are seeing life through a certain filter, we tend to focus on things in life that align with our filter. For example, if I wake up one morning and decide no matter what, I'm going to have a great day today, that means that I'm going to be actively looking at or looking for and focusing on things that are going to bring me joy. If I wake up and feel like I'm going to have a terrible day, I'm going to automatically seek out things that confirm that belief. So if your belief up till now is all the good ones are taken, you are absolutely right, because that's all you are choosing to perceive. As soon as you start to make a decision that you no longer want that to be your filter, your belief, then you will start to see things differently and actually allow more opportunities, more variety to come into your life. So just be really, really aware of what you're actually the baggage you're taking into this whole part of your life. The most telling way you can find out what energy you are bringing to dating is by the way that you feel about it. If someone says to you, oh, how's the dating scene going? And you're rolling your eyes and like, oh my God, it's a nightmare. That tells you exactly why it is a nightmare, because the energy you're putting towards it is the energy that you're getting back. Now, I completely understand if you've been dating for a few years, if you've had your heart broken many times, this is not what you want to hear, and it can seem really hard to listen to. And I completely understand that. And I've had clients who have told me the same thing. And they're right. It is really hard to hear up front because you've got all this momentum. Okay. So energetic momentum is created by a long period of time where certain thoughts have created this long-standing belief. It's like you've got this gigantic, like you've got a cruise ship moving in a certain direction. There's a lot of energy, a lot of momentum, a lot of belief. Okay, there's not enough good ones out there. And of course I have to please them when I show up, because otherwise they won't like me. And then I'm going to be out on a limb. And this is a belief system that you've been holding for maybe 5, even 10 years. And here I am telling you, no, just turn that ship around. This is easy. I get it. That's hard to hear. However, the only way you're going to start turning that ship around is by deciding that you want to try to do it. And you sure enough can turn those ships around, okay? It is just about small incremental changes that start to lift you into a new dimension, a new way of thinking. Now, I fully understand, and I'm going to come back to this in more detail later, okay? But firstly, I want to talk about going on the date, okay? So, and I've already touched on this a bit, but the most important thing is that when you show up on the date, that you show up as you, okay? That you dress the way that you would normally dress, that you act the way you would normally act, okay? That you show up as the person that you show up as with your friends, that you are not putting on any pretenses, that you're letting this person see you for who you really are. Because the more layers of pretense there is, the more layers there are between you that are actually going to prevent that connection from really happening. So it's really important to show up honestly, to show up with nice, clean, clear energy. You know, there's a theme here. Clean energy is what you want. Setting up your clean energy around who it is that you want to attract, firstly, not settling for anyone else, and then showing up on the date in your true self and not pretending on any level that you're something or someone that you're not. By all means, you know, show up as your best self, but don't show up as a version of you that is not in alignment with who you normally are. And most importantly, not compromising yourself for the benefit of that other person. Don't ever put the needs of the person you're with above your own needs. That is only going to set you up for a long-term situation where that person will consistently think that they can dominate the situation. And that is not a pattern that you will enjoy on a long-term basis. So it's not an idea that you want to give them from the get-go. So hopefully you're starting to see this theme of really showing up with clarity and really clear intention and energy about the person that you want to be with and the person you want to be in that space with them. Okay, so now you've gone on the date, and now it's about how you show up afterwards. If you're not into this person, tell them. Be honest about how you feel. You don't have to be rude or unkind, but just do it in a really kind and compassionate way. And just say to them, I don't feel to go on a second date. And I want to be honest with you about that. And I wish you all the best in your search for a partner. Whatever the words that feel right to you are, but do be honest about it. Don't string anyone along, because all you're doing there is setting yourself up to be treated the same way by someone else in the future. Everything we put out is what we get back. Another word for it is karma, okay? So just being really, really clear about how you're showing up and about the way that you want to be treated. All the time, really understanding that you are the one that is taking ownership of how you want your dating experience to look like and how you want to receive what's being offered to you. Equally, if you want to see them again and they don't want to see you, accept it with the knowledge that this person was not your person, clearly. And the person that is your person is coming in still. Okay, so this is what can get really tricky for people. And especially when I'm coaching people in this situation, what can be confronting and challenging at times is they're like, okay, I've been really clear on my energy and I've been doing this for a while and I still haven't met that person. And it's frustrating, right? Or they'll meet a person and they think that they're all the things and they're so happy, and then it falls over and they're like, what happened? Why did this happen? And the reality is that even once you've started turning that ship around, you're still in the process of turning it around. Okay, and so you can still attract kind of reflections of old energy. Okay, so don't worry, all you want to do is keep going, stay clear, focused on who you want to be and what you want in life and what you're worthy of, trusting that they're coming in. You know, weirdly, my cats have taught me a lot about energy. And the one thing they've taught me, or one of the things that they've shown me, is when one of them wants to go out, they will go and sit by the front door and they will just look at the front door. And they won't move. I can walk past them. My husband can walk past them. We can do 1,000 different things. And they will just sit there and they will continue to look at the door until, sure enough, one of us will go, oh, you want to go out? Okay. And we let them out. They have kept their energy really, really clear. Doesn't matter what's happened. They're like, no, this is where I want to go. It's like your GPS. You set in your destination for what you want. Doesn't matter how many wrong turns you take. As long as you keep that destination on point, you're going to end up there. Okay. So this is exactly the same thing with your energy, being really clear about what you want, being very clear about the person that you want to be in relation to that person you're calling in, and trusting that everything that's happening between now and you meeting that person is simply aligning you so that you and this person are bound to attract each other at the perfect time. And this is something I'd also really like you to know. You are always in the perfect place at the perfect time, doing the perfect thing. Always. I know that might sound crazy. And I know that life isn't always fun, but even in times that are challenging, all that's happening is that life is showing us through what we don't want, that we want other things. We get clear on what we want when life is not giving us what we want. Okay. And it means that when we get really clear on what we want, we start to actively go for it. There's only so long you'll choose to put up with miserable. Okay. And as long as life keeps bringing you that, you're going to get clearer and clearer and clearer that you want more. And that's what's happening with all these duds that you might be dating at the moment. You're getting clearer and clearer and clearer on the fact that you might have to try some of what I'm suggesting in order to find the right person. And that might put you in an uncomfortable place. That might invite you to be a version of yourself you've not been before. But this is why it might be the best next step. So, or at least worth a try, right? So, yes, so post-date, acting with integrity, again, being kind or accepting that that person wasn't the person that you thought they might be, and that's okay. Just keep going with your clear intention, trusting that the right person is coming in. Sometimes, and this is really frequent actually, sometimes right before we get the thing we really wanted, something will come in that will look similar to it, but not quite be it. And it's almost like a little test. Like, are you sure you really want all the things you're asking for? Are you sure that you're deserving and worthy of that? Or do you just want to accept this? This is almost what you wanted. Go on, just take this. This is safe, right? And it's in finding the courage to really stay attuned to who you are and what you want and going for it anyway, and maybe saying no to people that are kind of cool, but not really what you're after. And definitely, and this is a really, really big one, do not continue to sleep with somebody who has told you directly they're not serious about a relationship, or that they might be with somebody else, or that they're not sure what they want. And I'm not telling you this to be a prude. I'm telling you this because you deserve what you're asking for. And what you're asking for will come to you, but you have to keep your energy clean. And if you're in bed with someone or other people, it means that that space in your life is being taken up by shadows of other people's energy. And it's not open and vacant for the right person, for the one you really want to come into. So this is what I mean. Keep your energy clear, keep it clean, okay? And then what you want will come to you, because you've shown up for it. And you, in the process of keeping your energy clear, you've actually come into alignment in vibrational synchronicity with the thing that you're asking for. When my partner and I first got together, he was a bit touch and go. He'd come out of a relationship that had left him very hurt. And yet I was really clear on what I wanted, and I was clear that I wanted him. And we actually fell into a space where I was having casual sex with him, and we weren't going on dates. He wasn't treating me the way that I wanted to be treated. And I realized that this was not going in the right direction, and it didn't feel good to me. And so in the end, I turned around to him and said, look, I'd rather be your friend or your girlfriend, but I'm not going to be anything in between. And he was like, okay, I understand that. And then we kind of left it. And I was out. And I was in this situation where I was like, oh my goodness, it's all over. But I just decided to stay really, really clear in myself about what I wanted. I remember actually saying to the universe, he's the one I want, and I'll wait till he's ready. And I did not text him. I did not message him. I had zero communication with him, not because I didn't want to. At that point in time, I used to party a lot, and that's always when it gets you, right? When you're coming home, you're drunk or high, and you want to hook up. I've been there, okay? and that's when you're most lonely. And I did not allow myself to go down that route. I did anything I could. I would call people, have a chat with them, call friends. I would distract myself. I would not allow myself to do that. And a whole month passed. And in that month, I met other men, and I just turned them away. I was like, no, not interested. I just kept saying to the universe, I'm just going to keep my energy clean, and I'm just going to see what happens. And this was before I knew how to work with energy. This was just pure intuition. Literally a month to the day, I got a message from him asking me if I'd like to go for dinner. We went for dinner, and then he invited me to go to his mum's house for the weekend. Who does that anyway? And so we went to his mum's for the weekend. That was a whole other story. But whilst we were there, he turned around and asked me if I would like to be his girlfriend. And of course I was thrilled. And we basically started our relationship there. So keeping your energy clean is the biggest, most important thing when you're in that dating space, but it does not end there. Oh no. It also is really vital in your relationship. If we're showing up as the person that we want to be with, then we subconsciously are telling our partner continually how we want to be treated and what we expect in a relationship. And if they don't meet that, it becomes very clear. But if you're not showing up with integrity, if you are talking down to your partner, if you're calling them names, if you are disrespecting them, if you are using sex as a control mechanism or affection as a control mechanism, all these techniques are not going to help you have a long, happy, sustaining relationship, because all these techniques are reflecting your own suffering. And I'll tell you why. Because if you're calling that person names, if you're disrespecting them, if you're controlling them in whatever way, these are all behaviors that reflect the way that you feel about yourself. So my partner and I have a rule: we never call each other names. This might seem really crazy to some people, but it means that the caliber of our interactions, even when we're angry or sad or whatever with one another, it never goes below a certain point, because neither of us let it. Okay, our words are really, really powerful. And if we call each other names, there's a lot of energy that goes with that. And it's really destructive. So it's really being aware of what you're putting into your relationship, because what you're putting in, you're going to get out. Okay. I've never, calling my husband an idiot, those words just won't come out my mouth. It doesn't mean that he hasn't really annoyed and upset me in the past, but I'll tell him that's really upsetting or annoying. I won't call him names. It just keeps things at a certain place that is very honoring of each other. One of the most powerful tools my partner and I have used, which I recommend to all of my clients, is the 20-20 rule. Or practice rather. So this is basically when each of us takes turns to talk for 20 minutes to the other partner, and the partner that's listening has to stay completely kind of non-responsive. So it doesn't matter what I say to my husband, for example, in the 20 minutes, he will just hold my gaze respectfully. He won't retaliate or respond. He won't say a word. And physically, he won't kind of pull faces or, demonstrate any sort of emotional response either. He just holds space for me whilst I express how I honestly feel. And then vice versa, I do the same for him. Now, what tends to happen is in the first 10 minutes, all you're doing is basically letting off steam about the things that have happened recently that have upset you for whatever reason. And then after that, it kind of gets to a point where you're like, oh, maybe I don't have anything else to say. And then there's this really awkward silence. But this is where you must not give up, okay? Just allow the silence to be there, because then the gold comes up. Then your true feelings start to come up to the surface, and you start to speak really honestly about how you feel. And what often comes up really surprises you. And most frequently what happens is that you'll find that you and your partner are weirdly much more aligned than you had previously thought. And so it can be a really beautiful way to go from a place of great hurt to great understanding. So I highly recommend that you give this a try. Another thing to take note of, as I was saying earlier, what you put in, you get out. And a lot of, and I also hear a lot around, feeling dissatisfied in terms of affection or sex, any sort of physical displays of love, if you like, can often be lacking in long-term relationships, which is why it's really important, again, to really reflect upon how you are showing up. When it's Valentine's or around then, I normally go and buy lots of different cards that I like that are just beautiful variations on love. And I kind of stockpile them. And then throughout the year, I'll just leave a card somewhere or a note or a message that he's not expecting and that reaffirms my love for him. And just little things like that, a surprise dinner date, or I don't need to give you heaps of ideas. You can look them up on the internet. But the point is, bring what you want to it, and it will then come back to you. I have taught my husband how to love me in many, many ways, and it has paid me back 1,000-fold. So really be aware of what you're saying, what you're doing for them, and how you're being around them. These are all really key factors. And what you'll find is that you'll actually learn a lot about yourself in the process, because you'll probably notice a lot of resistance to some of those things, but that's just part of you that's holding you back from receiving. Because once we can get over those humps, once we start showing up really honestly in our relationships, and often really vulnerably, we actually empower ourselves, because we overcome those obstacles, we overcome those doubts. You know, shame can be something that keeps us locked up, but shame cannot survive being called out. So if there's something in you, between you and your partner, that you feel shame around, I ask you, I invite you to just really sit with it and maybe try that 20 minutes each scenario and see if it's something that you feel safe enough saying out loud. Because the likelihood is that your shame is holding you back from receiving the love that you really want. So, to sum up, whether you're in a relationship or whether you're dating, keeping clean, clear energy is so powerful and such a potent way to attract what it is that you want in life. And it also feels really, really good. There is nothing better than really knowing that you're standing in your own integrity. So I wish you well with it. And if you have any questions about this, or if you would like an integration session, please reach out. You can email me at hello@kwilson.love, or you can go to my website and book in an integration session, www.kwilson.love. It has been so lovely to share this with you. I hope it's been useful. Sending you all lots of love, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.